All right. So value, but not just any value. White on black paper, which can get really complicated really quickly. Let me just put the foam tip on this palette knife so I can use it with that pastel. I'm going to use a combination of pastel and white right here on this palette. This piece of white charcoal, that's what it's marketed as, is just a white chalk. And then this white charcoal, it's also a white chalk pencil for details, along with the kneaded eraser. I'm going to be blending mostly with this blending stump right here, which has also used a ton of actual charcoal in it, so hopefully it doesn't get too gray. But I like to put down a nice foundational like hit of tone down there, so I'm not working directly on just the blank canvas at the beginning. Put that in there because I want to develop the form and develop the values of which I'm working in. So it's key in finding the correct values in your drawing, especially white on black, which can get a lot more difficult than other kinds of drawing, is gray. Think gray. Don't think white, don't think black, think gray. Try to get as intricate in your grays as possible. Like if you have a 0 to 10 value scale, you're gonna be messing around in the, if you're really gonna make a good drawing, you're probably gonna spend the most of your time around the 4, 5, 6, 7 value scale, right? In terms of dark and light. Now when it comes to white on black drawings, it's actually a lot more difficult because you're kind of working inverted. If you're not practiced in this style, you're kind of working inverted compared to what you normally would draw if you have a dark material on a white paper. I'm not concerned too much right now about hitting my proportions exactly, but I'm kind of keeping aware my reference over here on the iPad where that light is hitting. I'm really ignoring all the shadows around it and also the background around it. All I'm really worried about right now is the face and where the shadows are. I'm losing a lot of those shadow shapes, but I'm gonna sculpt them back out with this kneaded eraser. So let me stretch this, warm this up a little bit. The trick and the key to getting accurate values is layering. So we're gonna put down a lot of white, and then we're gonna remove a lot of white. Now don't go too bright like I kind of just did with the material, because, or too dark depending if you're working with black, because it's hard to remove. So it's better to work little by little, work your values in little by little. Don't go too crazy with it. Now I have a little bit of control in this crazy expression just because I do it so often. But if I did this earlier on in my career as an artist, it would have been a disaster. So little by little, work your values. I'm trying to be quick so I don't waste all your time, but so now that you kind of see the face coming out, keep in mind those proportions. That could make or break your drawing as well. Right now I'm going to talk to you about value. So instead of making lines where you see a hard line, like maybe right here on the nose, most people would make a hard line there, but really if you look at the reference, there's not much of a line there. There's more of a change in value that creates a natural line. So instead of actually making a line there, just make a little bit of a darker area here and a little bit of a lighter area on this side. You're going to get a natural line done that way. So when creating these charcoal and chalk drawings, pastel drawings even, you want to find what's called the local value, not just the value you see. So if you see something lighter, you use white, or just go straight out white, as bright as possible. It's not going to get you the best. It's not going to get you the best effect. What you want to do is you want to compare it. So if we come here to the reference real quick, we can see that you can go and see that there's a highlight on the nose that's pretty bright white, but there's also like bright white along the cheek, right here on the upper lip, and also on the forehead. Now if I do this whole thing as white, the brightest white I can get, I'm not going to have any changes in values. I'm just going to have a super bright, almost close to 0 value, when what I should use is hold that white, bright white off for just the reflection of the nose here. I mean the highlight of the nose there, and keep this a little bit grayed out. That's going to give me the nicest, most realistic effect going on, because you want to see how bright and how light you can get your values, and also how dark you can possibly get your values, and work within that frame. Because if you start to use only those darkest and lightest values, you're going to get something like a silhouette. You're not going to get a sculpted out piece with the values. So be very subtle. Don't draw what you don't see. So if you think that this should be bright when it really isn't, like here, there's a lower lip right there that's actually catching a little bit of a highlight, but most of it's in the shadow, so it just looks like it's lighter than it really is. But if you draw it really light, it's gonna look weird. So so be subtle with it. If you have a lot of darkness around where you're drawing and it looks bright, you just need a little bit and it'll look really bright. But if you have a lot of light and you need to make it lighter, don't make that brightness around, like to say around the nose and the cheek, too light. Use it subtly, and then you come back in with this highlight and just pop it in there. You see that? Now you have like almost a form carved that way. It's something that comes with time, and it's something that comes with practice, so don't be frustrated if you can't get it right away. But I think one of the best ways to actually learn value, to take your drawings to the next level, is actually to create a value scale. Make 10 boxes, at least 10. Sometimes you can get away with 7. Sometimes you even go higher than that. But make 10 boxes, maybe 2 inches by 2 inches, on a piece of paper. Fill them in from 0, which is, in this case, it would be 10 is the black of the paper, and 0 is the brightest white you can possibly get with this material, and inverted if you're working on a white piece of paper with charcoal. And try to get those as accurate as you possibly can, seeing that the whole square is exactly the same tone and changing from each one perfectly, unified. And then you want to apply that to your drawing, those different values, and try to capture all of them. I'm not so worried about these details going on here in the eye and all that. Maybe I can just get a little bit of reflection of the eye there or something like that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to capture some interesting values by layering, removing, almost carving the form out like a sculpture. But those transitions are key from the light grays. All this is pretty much a light gray going on here. Very few parts of this are actually the brightest white I can get with this pan pastel. Very few. Now look, I'll even use this one now too, to kind of change it up with this piece of white chalk. It doesn't matter what material you're using. You don't have to use exactly the material I'm using here, but it's all the same principle. If you want to get this effect, you can actually just use the side of the chalk here and blend like that. And you see I'm getting a little too light for my liking, I think. So as I kind of push these bright highlights, like I think the brightest part of the face is right here, along with the outside of this nostril where the cheek is hitting right there, and just a little bit underneath this eye right here. So as long as I'm hitting those and making sure that I'm maintaining those as the brightest part of the drawing, I can come back in with the kneaded eraser once again and start to block in and pull out those shadows. Not to adjust mistakes all that much, but kind of to carve out the shadows. Got a little bit of a shadow, maybe it's this lip right here. This light's kind of traveling a little too far, a little too harsh. If I squint, this is in a lot more shadow. And then we actually have some of the darkest areas of a portrait are usually where you find the lips meeting. That's going to be very, very dark. You almost get black there. as well as sometimes the nostrils. It gets pretty dark, but not quite the same. Get some reflected light. The darkest part of a drawing naturally is usually in the eyes. So right under the eyelid and in the pupil. I'm gonna draw some of the iris here, or the iris. So the pupil's here, and then you have the iris, which is the center of the pupil, the darkest part of the pupil. You wanna kind of make that as dark as you can go. That will give the piece depth. This reflection is a little misplaced, so I'm gonna kind of remove some of it. But that'll create the most depth in your piece. With the brightest parts usually being like the reflection in the eye, and then the tip of the nose, sometimes the top of the lip here, that's catching a lot, and then like in the forehead and then the cheek, a little bit of a highlight. Sometimes the chin, but the chin right here is a little bit in shadow, so. So we'll come back in a little bit with this white chalk pencil. I'm gonna get a better reflection in here, get a little more details, get a little more refined. But as you can see, I didn't start with this pencil because this is a little too refined, and I would have gotten way sidetracked with what I'm working on if I don't have the values properly created throughout the piece. I'm kind of ignoring this eye right here. It's okay though, because it's kind of in shadow. We could even get these values to kind of just fall off. We don't want the huge contrast on the outside where the expression is going on of the black paper and the mark making. You don't want the craziest contrast there. You want the contrast to where the eye naturally flows to, where the details are. So like in this area here, where the lips are, kind of where the nose is here. Be a little more careful about how precise and how contrasty that is. Because the eye naturally navigates not just towards where the detail is and where the light's hitting, but also where the light is hitting the dark values sharpest. So the sharpest points of that would be like here, where like you have a very dark value under the nose hitting the brightness of the cheek there. So like areas like that, and even the eye here. I could darken this eyelid, or lighten this eyelid, where it's catching the light. See, these areas are gonna bring the most attention into the piece. So you want to maintain these high contrast values and save them for these interesting areas. So like any other piece, I could keep working on this all day long, but for the sake of time, I think it's in a good spot. Remember to check your values by checking to see if this part maybe of the cheek is very bright, then it should not be the same value as maybe this shadow shape over here in the other side of the cheek, and kind of rechecking place to place, far distances in your piece. So you might have like a reflection here, and you want to test that against the brightness and the reflection in the eye, probably something like that. So don't just contrast it and compare it to a local area of the drawing, but you want to check them across the entire piece, two different parts of the entire piece. But there's the drawing. If you guys want more information on materials, I'll put that down in the description. Also, check out MADCHARCOALshop.com if you guys want some artwork, or madartmaterials.com. That'll be coming out soon, if it's not already out by the time you watch this video. So, so you can get some of the materials that I work with personally and develop personally. This is a arch cover, I believe it's pronounced, arches. That's how it's spelt, or yeah, spelt. It's a black cover paper for printmaking, given to us and supplied by Legion Paper. And I'll tag them as well. They're the best. They have awesome paper, and they supply me with all of my papers. So make sure to check them out if you guys want to work with the same paper that I work with, which is BFK Reeves in white, and then Arch cover in black. This is a 22 by 30 sheet. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what else you guys want to see tutorial-wise in the comment section. and make sure to check out what we have available for courses and for drawing courses, so you guys can learn more in depth and less of an overview than this, but more precise, and to be more to be a bit more intentional with your learning as an artist. Talk to you guys in the next one.